I'm really looking forward to hearing from some student voices in addition to that great question that was asked this morning of our keynote. So kudos for asking a question like that. At this point, I want to bring up Marcy Johnson. She's the director of CTE with the Illinois State Board of Education, and she's going to be leading our discussion with the students who are representatives from the Success Network Student Advisory Council and from the board of the Career and Technical Student Organizations. So, Marcy.
Good afternoon. So I'm excited to be here today. This is a great opportunity for all of you to really see what student voice looks like. We have some fantastic students up here, and these students have been able to help us talk about guiding policy, talking about input on CTE, and providing their view of what it looks like from their end. And one of their great passions is diversity and equity. And I am just really impressed with the students, and they want to share. They want to be part of this. We have two groups up here today. We have the Success Network Advisory Council and the CTE CTSO Student Board. And what I want to share with you with the CTSO Student Board is that they reached out to me and they said, I want to have a relationship with the Illinois State Board of Education. And that gave me chills to think that we have students who see the value of having a connection at a state agency. And these students have a lot to share. And February was CTE month. And the students presented at the board. They were very articulate the way they expressed themselves, and they have a lot to say. And I think this is great for us to find time to hear what they have to say. And I just want to recognize, too, for those of you that don't know what a CTSO is, that this is a career and technical student organization. This is something that is not just a club. This is something where it's connected to the courses that they do in school. It gives them leadership opportunities. It gives them an opportunity to take the technical skills that they learn in school and to use that and expand. We have over 277,000 CTE students in Illinois, but we only have less than 80,000 that are in a CTSO. So a lot of students are missing out on those opportunities. So for those communities that don't have one, this is something to look into and to be able to provide those resources and support for the students. When we talk about our goal for the network, of 60 by 25, these students are part of that. Where are they going to be, in 2025? And have they reached those credentials? Have they received college degrees? I was going to say students are a pipeline, but I got recognized earlier about maybe pipeline isn't the right term, but they are the pathway into our businesses. And so we have to grow them and support them. And more engagement with business and industry is what these students need. A year ago, we in collaboration with NIU, P20 Network, with Illinois Community College Board, and ISB, we worked with NAEP, the National Alliance of Partnership Equity, and we did an Equity Leadership Academy. And our goal when that Equity Leadership Academy was student voice. And so we worked with several of the students on the CTSO board to help us with this. So what we did was, with their help, and I want to say we helped them, they didn't help us, did a survey. They wrote the survey, they wrote the questions, and then they sent it out. We got over 7,000 students to respond, which in a 2-week period, which to me just blew me away, that we got that kind of a response. So one of our goals then was to look at what barriers the students were having in participating in career and technical education with dual credit. So here's some of the data that came out of that survey. So when we talk about the demographics of the students, you can see it was pretty much equally between freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors. When we asked if they were an ELL student, you can see where 78% were not, 21% were an ELL student. When we looked at the race ethnicity, we had every area represented. 61% were white, 18% were Latinx, 7% black, 2.8 Asian. We had 0.5% American Indian, 7% two or more races, and 2.2 preferred not to respond, which is fine. It gives them that opportunity. And this is what we found out. We asked them, has your high school counselor discussed college and career opportunities with you? 72% said yes. 27% said no, they hadn't talked to their counselor. Have you visited a local community college to learn about college and career? 70% said no. Have you had any visitors that have discussed college and career opportunities with you? 70% said yes. And have you taken dual credit courses in high school? 67% said no. We need to provide those opportunities for dual credit for students. They need it, they want it, and the number of opportunities is limited. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Danya, and now they're going to talk about their results, right? Okay.
Thank you so much, Marcy. Hi, everybody. My name is Dania Ibrahim. I'm the Innovation Manager at the Education Systems Center, and I have had the joy and honor with working with this incredible group of students on stage with you here today. And before I walk into what they did and have them share their results, I wanted to give them the time to introduce themselves. I also wanted to note that these students, as Marcy mentioned, represent the CTSO, Career Technical and Student Organization Board, and the Success Network Student Advisory Council. Edith mentioned what the Student Advisory Council does earlier while in the opening plenary, but I wanted to give them some time to also share what the CTSO board does. So I'm going to have each of the students, or as Dr. Lovett likes to call them, our board of directors, introduce themselves, share their name, their grade, their school, and whether or not they're a part of the Student Advisory Council, which we'll be calling the SAC likely from now on, and the Career and Technical Student Organization Board, which you're going to hear us probably refer to as the CTSO Board, because all of these words are very long. And so without further ado, I'm going to pass it along to Emily to start introducing herself. She's also the CTSO Board President, so she's going to briefly tell you what the CTSO Board does.
Thanks, Danya. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Wan. I'm currently a senior at Barrington High School, District 220. As Danya said, I am serving as this year's president of the CTSO Student Board, and we are a coalition of students who represent all 9 Illinois CTSOs, and we work directly with the Illinois State Board of Education, and we're here to really foster unity between students who are serving as leaders within CTSOs, and amongst all, to really advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusivity, and most importantly, student representation when it comes to CTE and CTSO policymaking. And next, I'll pass it off to the rest of our members.
Hello, I'm Anthony Kelson. Gosh dang it, I'm sorry. I am in high school, yes. But I'm a junior in Mendota Township High School, and I'm a member of the SAC.
Hello everyone, my name is Samuel Matura, and I'm a junior at Mendota Township High School as well, and I'm a part of the SAC.
Hi, my name is Rowan Smith. I'm a junior at Moline High School, and I am also a member of the SAC.
Hi, my name is Trinity Musinski. I'm a senior at Lockport Township High School, and I'm a member of the CTSO board.
Hi, my name is Jose Vences. I'm a junior at North Chicago Community High School. That's good, right? Yeah. And then I'm a part of the SAC board.
Hi, I'm Nicole. I'm a senior at Fulton High School, and I'm a member of the SAC.
Hi, my name is Maslon Clayboy Jr. I'm a junior at West Aurora High School, and I'm the member of the CTSO board.
So these last 4 months, we have been meeting up on Fridays around 4 p.m. to show you the dedication of these students to engage in a data analysis process. And so, as Marcy mentioned earlier, this was a really big data set, over 7,000 respondents. And so we engaged in some different things to better understand the data and be able to present something thoughtful here to you today. So the topics that were covered in the data set were career and technical education programs, dual credit, and career and technical student organizations. And the students engaged in a process of learning how to deal with big data in Excel and learning basic analyses processes in qualitative analysis. They did coding of open-ended student responses and identified themes and categorized them. They engaged in quantitative analysis to be able to bring you descriptive statistics today. They also engaged in a process of interpreting results and creating graphs to be able to present to you all today. And then there was another process of student follow-up in which we all met up as a group and discussed and contextualized the data that was collected. And we were able to, as a group, discuss whether or not it made sense in terms of what we know about our schools, what our peers know, things of that sort. And these students created a bit of a narrative based on their own personal experiences, taking from the data that they analyzed and being able to contextualize it and bring it into their knowledge base as well. These students, as well as other students in the Student Advisory Council, came up with recommendations. So you're going to note in some of the data that we're going to show you is about barriers to engagement in career and technical education, or in CTSOs, or to participate in dual credit courses. And this group, as well as some other members of the SAC, came up with recommendations to address those barriers. And then they did a bit of a pressure testing scenario where we put all these recommendations together, and all of these students sent it out to their peers at their schools to get an idea of whether or not the peers at their schools, which are all across the state, whether or not those students felt that these were, good recommendations, whether or not they think that they would help at their school, whether or not they think that there was recommendations that were missing. And so this is what these students here are going to share with us today. I will note that the recommendations that they brought forth were very well received. So what they're sharing with you today has also been shared with their peers across the state and is now being brought forth to you. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Anthony, Sam, and Rowan and Trinity up to begin speaking on dual credit results.
Hello again. So, dual credit. We all know it. We all seen it. You go to your high school or local college, and you take a class, and this class will get you both credit in high school and in college. This is an incredibly important thing for college-bound students because it helps them to get ahead. It cuts down on costs and just generally makes the transition into college easier. There are a lot of different ways that you can take dual credit classes, but you can take them at your school if they're the right requirements. You can take it at the actual college, or there are also online options. But the biggest takeaway is that these are incredibly important because they help to enable students to get ahead and really get immersed into college as fast as they want.
Hello, everyone. Here we have a graph that shows the percentages of yes and no from when students were asked if they had any barriers that kept them from participating in dual credit courses. As you can see, 90.4% said no and 9.6% said yes. Based on the graph we just saw, we know that 9.6% of students do face barriers that keep them from participating in dual credit courses. Before I go on, I would like to make it known that it is 9.6% out of over 7,000 students that do face barriers. In my opinion, that is an impressively low number, but I also believe that it can and should be lower because every student deserves equal opportunities even if their situations differ. I'm here today to tell you all exactly what those barriers are. So, if you haven't already, feel free to scan through and read all the responses because I will only be reading a few of them out loud. Dual credit classes are only permitted for juniors and seniors. I wasn't aware of dual credit options because I wasn't told about them sooner. These are just two of the many responses that we got from students who faced barriers. So what we did was we took all the responses and we put them into different categories. Okay. This bar graph shows the different categories that we put each of the responses into. Here we have 8 different categories made up of academic challenges, age or grade level, scheduling conflicts, lack of information, lack of opportunities, transportation, family or personal, and others. To give you all an idea of how we categorize the quotes, the first quote I read aloud would be under the category age or grade level because only certain grade levels at that student's school can take dual credit courses. The second quote I read aloud would be under the category lack of information because that student wasn't aware that he or she could be involved in dual credit courses. Evidently, if we take a deeper look into each of these categories, we can come to the conclusion that there is definitely room for improvement. In a system where student success is prioritized, some of these barriers shouldn't even exist, specifically attacking age and grade level and lack of information. As I thank you all for your time and attention to the barriers faced by students, I would like to introduce Anthony Kelson once again to the podium. Thank you.
Dual credit, very important, but not everybody is quite doing it. Maybe there's something getting in the way one way or another. But before I kind of get into that, I just want to thank you guys all again for coming here in the first place. You guys are here today and you are working towards the betterment of your own students. You are the driving force of advancement of their own education, and that doesn't go unnoticed. You are all acting to create a better future by enabling us and anybody soon to come to do more, and that's really important. One of the main things that you guys can do about this, being the administrators, the teachers, the people that are in charge and capable of pushing for change. You guys can reach out to local colleges. Find just about anything that might even work. Sure, you might have the one main community college in your area, but there are other ones available too. Research the different programs that they offer. Research the different programs that they have, and then once you know them, contrast them with other ones. Find out what works for you and your students, and also what works for your teachers. Are your teachers even qualified for it? If not, can you get them qualified? And again, if not, are there any online options? These classes are incredibly important, again, because they are literally building the basis for your students' futures in college, which is the basis of their futures in work, which is the basis of their future in life. You guys are responsible for the betterment of the next generation. It is a very great burden to put on you guys. And I mean, you guys took it up willingly. And I respect you for that. That is incredibly tough. And I mean, even just listening to us in the first place, that is incredibly important. So thank you all for doing that. You guys are capable of putting power into the hands of your students. You guys are capable of making a difference in your students and letting them make the differences that they want to see in the world. I believe in you all, and I think that you guys are capable of making the changes to let us make the changes. So thank you for that. Next on is Rowan.
To wrap up the last portion about making classes more accessible, you will see that we have 3 main bullet points here, being exploring online options, finding ways to make classes more financially accessible, and destigmatizing these classes as hard. In starting with online options, you will find that they can be cheaper and more accessible and allow kids to take these classes on their own time and not necessarily in the classroom. This allows for an opening of less schedule conflicts and allows more kids in different age and grade levels to take these classes. It also eliminates the need for transportation. Having these online classes allows more kids to get to these classes and be a part of them rather than having to worry about how you're going to get there in the first place before you even start the workload. In regards to making classes more financially accessible, this is something that extremely does drive kids away from taking these classes. Personally, in my school district, some of our classes are $90 to $60, and that is a big red flag to some kids. We do have fee waivers and programs to help you get into these classes, but just not everybody qualifies, or just seeing that a lot of money is needed to take one class does really drive kids away from enrollment. And finding ways to work with community colleges or online colleges to work and get classes more accessible to kids really does help bring more kids into the enrollment of the program. And in regards to destigmatizing the classes as being hard, this is something huge and is a lot harder to change. A lot of kids will find that they'll have a momentary struggle in this class and that it does reflect poorly when they talk about it to their peers. However, not all of these classes, the whole range, the whole year, is hard. And so finding a way to amplify the voice of this class, while it does say dual credit or college class, doesn't necessarily mean that it is at that intense of a rigor. That means you can't take it. These classes can be accessible for everyone, and everybody can do it if they put in a little effort. And so finding a way to make these classes more of a positive experience helps destigmatize these classes as hard. And now moving on to our second theme, Trinity will talk about it.
So one of the recommendations we had for dual credit to become more accessible for students was to increase awareness. This could be anywhere from encouraging counselors and teachers to put dual credit forward and making it more acknowledged for student participation, as well as encouraging students to check their course catalog and speak with their counselors about potential outcomes for their future and how it can prepare them, as well as having schools send out emails and information to students about dual credit and what it can do for them, as well as setting up a presentation between juniors and seniors and the underclassmen to discuss dual credit and what it can do for them and how it can help their post-secondary plans. More outreach to middle schools about the benefits of dual credit and how it can benefit students in the post-secondary world would be extremely helpful for students in their future. I will now pass it on to Jose, who will talk about CTE barriers.
All right, changing directions. We're going to be talking more on CTEs. And CTEs are basically career and technical educational programs that the state of Illinois provides instruction for. And then these programs are programs that students can apply for and then enter. And then these allow students to enter also a career that are in high demand. They provide a good salary and then also a safe choice for most students. And a great example of this would be choosing a class in something like arts and communication. This can lead the student to go into a career of photography, journalism, and video production. They can also choose finance and business. This leads them to go into accounting, marketing, and entrepreneurship. Then when students were asked if they faced any barriers from letting them participate in these programs, only 5% recorded that they had any barriers. This is a great number, and I'm actually really happy to see only just 5% of students recording that they face barriers. Obviously, we want to get it to as close to zero as we can, but this is an amazing start. Now, when they were asked about how they learned about CTEs, a large majority recorded having either a high school teacher or a high school counselor talking to them about these CTEs. And if we could all just take a moment to applaud them, our teachers and our school staff, real quick. These teachers are taking an active role in supporting students and taking control and reshaping their futures. Instead of following, a traditional path, they can choose different programs that can lead them to careers, as I said, that are safe, and then they provide a good salary. And now I'd like to invite Emily to talk more about these barriers.
Thank you. So what we're seeing right now is a deeper look into what specific barriers are present within career and technical education. So right now, these are the specific responses that students indicated when they were asked what barriers are present within CTE. So when we're seeing first in the red box, we see an example of they aren't talked about or highlighted in our academic course list. So a lot of people, including me, are just unaware of what they are. Or if we look at the navy blue box in the middle, my sport, I usually have no time for extra stuff in my schedule. So based on all these individual responses, we were able to group them into specific categories and themes, which are present here.
And we can see that the most prevalent barrier in CTE is simply the lack of information. And as a student who goes to a high school that does offer CTE programs and pathways, I can guarantee that this is not surprising to see. Because what often happens is that students are taking CTE courses, but are simply unaware that it counts as a career and technical education course. And by understanding this and by clarifying this to students, we can see better attainment for more students who want to go into CTE programs. Furthermore, when I see that we only had 0.3% of students indicate that transportation was a barrier, this was particularly surprising because when I talk to other students from different school districts, or even students in my own school district, there are students who have to take buses or find transportation to go to different institutions or different high schools to receive CTE education, which obviously poses a lot of barriers in students who want to take these courses within CTE. But now to talk about recommendations, I'm going to pass this off to Nicole. So we're obviously aware that there are plenty of barriers when it comes to assessing CTE. So by looking through tons and tons of data, we found numerous ways to eliminate these barriers. One of the ways was to make CTE available all 4 years, so to freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, because amongst our state advisory council and CTSO board, we found that as you get older and become an upperclassman or a junior and a senior, more scheduling conflicts arise there than when you are a freshman and a sophomore. If scheduling conflicts still exist as it becomes accessible to all 4 grades, we would ask that you allow students to use a study hall, also sometimes known as a 0 period, to complete these CTEs. Also, why don't we utilize classes that already exist within student schedules like math and science? I will now pass it on to Rowan to talk about increasing awareness of CTEs.
In regards to increasing awareness, one of the biggest things is your counselors. Often in many school districts, you use counselors for scheduling, and finding a way to have counselors send out a survey about potential career interests or career interests in regards to classes will help incoming students be aware of what their options are in exploring future careers or helping them establish a better foundation if they already have one selected. Also, integrating these ideas of CTE pathways into lower grade levels like 7th and 8th grades allows them to prepare for what they want to choose when they get into high school. It opens up awareness to different options they have in careers and fields that they can choose to explore in high school or narrow in. Also, if you talk to the elementary school kids, it allows them to understand that they have a whole world in front of them to explore ideas, and they don't have to know just at that young age. And having seminars that are virtual or like little booklets or pamphlets allows kids to be aware of what they have going forward in the future. It also is important, again, for counselors to emphasize what these classes are and correctly define them for students coming in. Some kids don't know what these classes are or that they are CTE classes, or they consider them general electives, and they are CTE classes, and it's important to identify them as that so they know that this is going towards their career and their future, and being a part of certain classes under certain fields allows them to be eligible for endorsements or scholarships and make connections and networking so that they know that there is a wide possibility in front of them. And now I'm going to pass it on to Mass and Emily to talk about CTSOs.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. It truly means a lot to see so many wonderful administrators and teachers here today. So, I'm here today to talk to you about the results of Column S, the portion of this survey of over 7,000 participants that discusses the differences between CTSOs and CTE, the differences in between these two, and the benefits that they pose to students. So let's begin by defining what a CTSO is. The literal definition of a CTSO is a career and technical student-led organization. However, in practice, a CTSO can mean a lot more. To students, CTSOs can be a family, a home away from home, or an opportunity to experience career pathways that might have been available to them before. All these things and more. CTE courses are much in the same, however, they are different. So, let us discuss those differences. First of all, CTSOs are competition and leadership-based opportunities for students to gain out-of-class experiences that will help them shape their futures, while CTE courses, like Jose said, are in-school opportunities for students to gain critical knowledge to help them in career pathways like journalism and photography. Before I get into this, to the further detail about these two things, I would like to say that these are both critical resources for students and are critical to the success of future generations of Illinois students statewide. So this is why I'm here talking to you about this today. Before getting into heavier detail, I would like to congratulate the hundreds of students that noted CTSO involvement a part of Column S. These students and many of the students beside me today are taking steps to further advance themselves and to take their future into their own hands to create their best opportunity for success. So let's give them a round of applause. These students, and like I said, the ones behind me, are very inspirational to me, and I hope you as well. They're here talking to you today about these important and critical messages that need to be implemented today so we can see change. But now, back to business. Like I said before, understanding the difference between CTSOs and CTE courses is critical to the success of future generations of students, and we're going to see why. So if you look at this graph right here, you will see that nearly 57% of students responded with a course. Now you may be asking yourselves, what are they being asked? What's the question? The question is, what CTSOs are you a part of? I'll repeat that again. What CTSOs are you a part of? Like we talked about before, CTSOs are organizations that help students, not courses. So this is why this is important, because to me, as a member of the CTSO student board and a member of, and the vice president of Illinois HOSA, it shows me that further steps need to be taken on behalf of the SAC and the CTSO board and CTSOs all around Illinois to educate students about the differences between CTSOs and CTE courses, their benefits and their differences, so that students can make the best decisions for them. In all honesty, not knowing the difference between these two topics is like going to a car dealership and not knowing the difference between a Hyundai and a Honda. So without that information, you won't be able to make the best decisions for you. But spreading this information and awareness is something that we cannot do alone. So I call upon you guys, the administrators, the teachers, the advisors, and the parents to educate your students about the differences between CTSOs and CTE courses and their benefits so your students can have the best chance of success, so they can compete competitively with their peers from in and out of state so that they can set themselves up for success. Thank you. I will now turn it over to Emily.
Thank you. So I first want to say that a career and technical student organization is a community that I found within career and technical education. And by that, I think Mass put it wonderfully and said that the first thing and most important thing that we need to do is to make sure that our students are aware what a CTSO is. And simply by clarifying CTSOs and by understanding and make sure every student who is involved within a CTSO, whether this is an after-school activity, an extracurricular, or a chapter within their school district, understands that they're officially registered as a CTSO, automatically opens up so many opportunities for networking, for competitive events, for team-based challenges, and to know that we have a team of state officers who are here to represent CTSOs and be there for students to represent our voices. And so I believe that as a student who was involved within Science Olympiad as a sophomore and who was invited to be accepted into the Illinois Science Olympiad Youth Advisory Committee, that moment when I was a sophomore and I learned that I was officially a part of a career and technical student organization, to think that today I'm standing here as a senior, serving as the president of Illinois CTSOs, has been so monumental in helping me define what it is that I'm truly passionate about. To know that this is where I'm so passionate about is policymaking and education, and knowing that I'm able to be here to represent the voices of my students. So as Matt said, we all urge you guys, educators and administrators, to start with these simple steps and to encourage all students to understand what CTSOs are, to make sure that we all have these opportunities to truly apply what we know within CTE and to demonstrate our understanding in such a community and team-based challenge events within CTSOs where we're able to network with other students. And before we end everything, I'll pass it back on to Danya to lead us through some student Q&A sessions.
So we have a few questions here for you to better understand these students, their involvements, and their engagement in this process. So, Jose, what did you learn from the process of looking at the data and analyzing it?
First off, I learned how to interpret the data in spreadsheets and also how to make these into graphs. And aside from that, I also learned about what barriers that students were facing and how they differ to my school. My school doesn't really have to worry so much because we're such a small school. We had transportation, class enrollment, and schedules covered, but I realized that other schools had these problems that I was never aware of.
It's great to hear that you learned about other student experiences and that you also got to gain some skills through your involvement in with this as well. Rowan, what are some takeaways from the dual credit data that you would like to share with the audience?
Okay. Seeing that age and grade level was one of the biggest barriers that kids face, that really struck with me personally, because that in itself is one of the major causes to the other barriers. With not being able of the age or grade level leads to scheduling conflicts, which can lead to other issues along the way. And knowing that we could do something about that and take a chance on these freshmen and sophomore and even the younger grades to take action in these classes and to try them opens up a whole field. And I personally was moved by that. I'm bringing it back to my school district to try to eliminate this barrier and hope that it opens up more opportunities for more kids.
Thank you so much, Rowan. I'm so happy that you were able to see some of those trickle-down effects of one barrier impacting another and better understand the chain of how that works, and that you were able to bring that back to your school as well. Thank you. Trinity, what are some takeaways from the CTE data that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, so there we go. I found that throughout the data, it was evident that there were actually barriers in CTE and that it was making an impact on students not being able to take CTE courses, whether that be their age and grade level or the lack of information. So after seeing those results from the data, I feel like there's a change that needs to be done and we need to take action to make that change.
Absolutely, absolutely. And from your voice to all of their ears here in our audience, thank you so much. Something that I hope that y'all are seeing too as a theme in these student answers is that we really try to encourage the students to, as they're giving us information that we're learning from, that they also feel like they're engaging in a way that's productive for them and that they're gaining skills through this process. And so that's something that we really try to check in with and ensure that they understand how this is going to take them further wherever they go, whatever they do, whichever field they're in. And so it's always great for us to check in on these students and their experience in these groups. And so I want to ask you, Nicole, what has it meant for you to be in the SAC, and what are some things that you've learned?
So I was actually made aware of this Student Advisory Council by my superintendent. I was recommended by him to be interviewed by Edith, and I was eventually accepted to this council. So within this council, I will get there in a little bit about my experience, but FFA was actually added to my district this year, and I was asked by my advisor to be the reporter for FFA. And so one of the experiences that I got was to attend the Build conference at ISU. And so we attended many sessions to make us better leaders. But actually the most impactful session that I attended was listening to our keynote speaker, Arik Jackson. He talked about everyone has some kind of box, and it's that one thing that someone said to you that you turned around and made your reality. And if you think you have a box, you probably do if an opportunity arises and you find every reason not to take it. So when my superintendent said that I should interview, I had instantly millions of reasons why I should not do this. But I eventually, came to my senses and realized what Arik had said, and it settled with me in my actions. So like I said, I obviously interviewed and I'm here now, but Arik gave me steps and everyone else that attended this conference to eliminate this box that we all probably have or have had at one point. So I took those steps, and the Student Advisory Council has been, a fantastic decision. I get to work with all of these people who have the same drive and, motivation that I do behind a lot of things. And I've been able to accept additional roles within it that I would usually be hesitant to accept. And so I've loved taking on so many roles during my high school experience, and I'm very saddened to say that it's almost all over. So, yeah.
I know we were having a discussion earlier in a student session about how a lot of these students are seeing the end to a lot of their student involvement. And so I want to take that moment to say that a lot of these students and a lot of the students you interact with are just so sad to leave the experiences that you make for them. And so with that being said, we're going to pass it along to Mass to tell us about his experience with the CTSO board. What have you learned from your experience?
Well, I would just like to say that joining the CTSO board was not in my plans. You know, it was like a very, how do I say, unplanned. Well, unplanned, obviously, but it was a blessing in disguise. I feel, because I've been able to network and to collaborate with all these great people beside me, and to really be inspired by their efforts to make a change. You know, like Emily with policy making and things like that. I've really been inspired to just take my future into my own hands and create success for myself, you know? And being able to talk to you all today, you guys, the administrators, people that can make things happen, people that can make changes for the better, for the future generations of students, you know? Because I'm a junior. I'm leaving next year, and then I'm probably going to stay in Illinois. But, you know, it's like, it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about the next generation of high school students, middle school students who are going to be here in our shoes, filling our shoes, talking to you all, you know? One thing that I really want to tie that back to about my involvement and how much this has meant to me is that everything that we are saying to you all is not, as Dr. Lovett said, autopsy data. This is not autopsy data. This is all actionable. Everything that we have said here and everything that we are bringing to you, these changes, you can make an action on it. You can make a move. And that is something that I feel is really important to signify the importance of my time in the CTSO board and all of our efforts here. So thank you.
I hope that you were able to learn something from our students here today. They put a lot of effort into putting forth this presentation, bringing together this data, and being able to advocate to you all. There's also other opportunities to hear from the students. Out in the lobby, they have written what they want administrators to know and what they hope all conference attendees will go home with and take action on. And so I hope you've learned from them as much as I have. I hope you've enjoyed this session as much as I have. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the conference. I want to quickly thank Edith and Sarah and Emily for their spearheading on this project and all the work that they've done. And a huge thank you to all of the students on the stage for all the effort, dedication that you bring to the table always. You make us feel like the future is bright. And thank you so much for everything you've done. Thank you all.